Rain Brown from Alaskan Bush People has been sentenced. The youngest and once most hopeful member of the Brown family is now facing the harsh consequences of a criminal case that has stunned longtime fans and followers. Arrested alongside her husband for burglary, malicious mischief, and criminal trespass, Rain's fall from grace has left many wondering what went so terribly wrong. Behind the scenes, her life had taken a darker turn long before the headlines broke. Now, with the sentence finalized, painful questions remain. How did Rain Brown's world collapse so quickly? What battles was she fighting in silence? And after everything she has lost, is there still a way back for her? Or is this truly the end? Rain Brown's arrest shocks the nation. What happened? On April 11, 2025, Rain Brown, the youngest daughter of the famous Alaskan Bush People family, was arrested alongside her husband, Josiah Lorton, in Okanogan County, Washington. The charges were serious: first-degree burglary and first-degree malicious mischief, both felonies. Additionally, Rain faced a separate charge of second-degree criminal trespass, a gross misdemeanor. According to police reports, Rain and Josiah were accused of illegally entering a private property without permission and causing significant property damage. Though the specific details of the incident, such as the identity of the property owner, the extent of the damage, or what exactly took place inside the residence, have not been publicly released. Law enforcement sources confirmed that the charges were based on evidence collected at the scene and witness accounts. The arrest sent shockwaves across the reality TV world. For years, Rain had been portrayed as the innocent, grounded child of the rugged Brown family, surviving off the grid in harsh conditions. Seeing her in handcuffs, facing serious felony charges, was a stunning reversal for fans who had watched her grow up on national television. After being booked into the county jail, Rain and Josiah spent 3 days in custody. On April 14, 2025, both were released without having to post bail, a decision that raised eyebrows. Some speculated that their release indicated the charges might be less serious than initially feared, while others argued it reflected their clean prior records. Nonetheless, they were ordered to appear at a future court date to formally face the charges. Public reaction was swift and divided. While some fans rushed to Rain's defense, expressing disbelief that she could be involved in any crime, others noted that her increasingly erratic public behavior over the past few years hinted at deeper personal struggles. This troubling incident marked a dramatic and very public fall for Rain Brown, thrusting her once private battles into the full glare of the media spotlight. For weeks, there had been little official news about her case, only rumors and speculation swirling among fans. But just 2 minutes ago, everything changed. Breaking updates have surfaced, and they confirm the situation has taken a dramatic and heartbreaking new turn. What exactly happened next would leave fans around the world stunned and raise even more painful questions about where Rain Brown's life is truly headed. Rain's shocking arrest is only the beginning of a much deeper story, a story shaped by years of hidden emotional battles that few ever truly understood. A long battle with mental health. Long before her arrest, troubling signs had already begun to surface in Rain Brown's life. Beneath the smiling face viewers knew from Alaskan Bush People, Rain was quietly battling serious mental health struggles that only worsened with time. As the youngest member of the Brown family, Rain faced enormous pressure from a young age. She grew up isolated from the outside world, living in extreme conditions for the reality cameras. While this lifestyle appeared adventurous and exciting to viewers behind the scenes, it came at a steep emotional cost. In February 2021, Renee Brown suffered a devastating blow that would forever alter the course of her life. Her father, Billy Brown, the beloved patriarch of the Alaskan Bush People family, died suddenly at the age of 68 after suffering a fatal seizure at the family's North Star Ranch in Washington. Billy wasn't just Rain's father. He was her rock, her moral compass, and her emotional foundation. Throughout her life, Ray openly described her father as her hero and best friend, someone who had guided her through the unique challenges of growing up isolated from the modern world. His passing left a gaping hole in the Brown family, but for Rain, it was a life-altering catastrophe. In the weeks following his death, Rain's grief was painfully visible. She posted heartbreaking messages on Instagram, admitting to her followers that she felt completely lost without him. In one emotional post, she wrote, "I don't know who I am anymore without you." She shared photos of sunsets and wilderness scenes, using them as metaphors for loss, loneliness, and searching for meaning in a world that suddenly felt unfamiliar and unsafe. Fans quickly noticed a stark change in her behavior. Rain withdrew from the spotlight, limiting her appearances on the family's reality show and taking long breaks from social media. Once an energetic and vibrant presence, she became somber and reclusive. Insiders close to the family later confirmed that Ree had been battling waves of deep depression, struggling to find a reason to move forward after the loss of the man who had always anchored her emotionally. Billy's death also disrupted the entire family dynamic. As the leader and decision-maker, Billy had kept the family united through countless hardships. Without him, tensions between siblings surfaced more visibly, and the family's once solid image began to fracture. For Rain, who had already been dealing with personal emotional battles, the collapse of family support made her situation even more precarious, leaving her adrift at the very moment she needed stability the most. Many who have followed Rain's journey believe that Billy's death triggered a devastating domino effect in her life. Without his guidance and protection, Renee became more vulnerable to unhealthy influences, poor choices, and emotional instability. She struggled to set boundaries, to distinguish true friends from opportunists, and to find her own identity outside the family's carefully curated public image. These vulnerabilities, left unchecked, would eventually steer her into dangerous territory, culminating in the legal troubles that now dominate headlines. What made Rain's grief even harder to bear was the public nature of her mourning. Grieving privately is difficult enough, but for Rain, every move she made was scrutinized by fans and critics alike. Every cryptic post, every absence, every emotional outburst was picked apart and judged, leaving her feeling even more exposed, isolated, and misunderstood. That isolation, many believe, pushed her further down a path of desperate decisions and misplaced trust. Still grappling with overwhelming grief and searching for something or someone to hold on to, Rain soon turned to one of the few places she thought she could find comfort. A new relationship that would ultimately become one of the most controversial and pivotal decisions of her life. A revelation that raised serious questions about the family's internal divisions. Rain's marriage seemed to symbolize a larger shift. A young woman breaking away from her family's traditions and expectations, seeking independence, but perhaps doing so from a place of deep emotional pain rather than empowerment. Those close to the situation later described Rain and Josiah's lifestyle as hand-to-mouth, living a rugged survivalist life, but without the financial and production support that Alaskan Bush people once provided. The couple reportedly struggled with money, frequently moving between temporary residences and relying on odd jobs to get by. Insiders hinted that financial strain combined with Rain's lingering emotional fragility created a tense and unstable environment. When Ree and Josiah were arrested in April 2025 for burglary, malicious mischief, and trespassing, Many observers immediately drew a connection between Rain's personal struggles, the pressures of her new marriage, and the decisions that led to her downfall. To some, Rain's bond with Josiah seemed like a lifeline in her darkest moments. But over time, it may have evolved into another source of instability rather than the solid foundation she so desperately needed. Now, with the shocking recent developments surrounding Rain's legal case, questions about her relationship with Josiah have only intensified. Was he a partner who provided love and support during her hardest years? Or did their bond, forged in grief and desperation, ultimately accelerate Rain's spiral into crisis? In the wake of her arrest, Renee Brown finally broke her silence and pointed fingers not at strangers, but at someone she once trusted deeply, her former manager. Rain's public response would ignite even more controversy. The manager allegations, Rain's bitter fight for her reputation. After spending 3 days in jail following her arrest in April 2025, Rain Brown was released without bail. But before her next scheduled court appearance, she finally decided to break her silence. And her message shocked everyone. Rather than apologizing or explaining the charges against her, Rain took to Instagram to accuse a former manager of betrayal, theft, and false accusations. In a heartfelt and emotional post, Rain claimed that a former manager, someone she had once trusted with her career and finances, had not only stolen from her, but was now orchestrating her downfall by falsely accusing her of crimes she insists she did not commit. Rain wrote, "It hurts my heart that my rainbows would choose to believe the lies that my old manager, who stole $43,000 from me and abused me instead of maybe thinking, 'Oh no, who is saying this about Rain?' Not, 'Wow, what a waste,'" she continued, pleading with her followers to wait for her side of the story. "It deeply hurts my heart. With all this said, I hope y'all will stick around to hear my side of the story. God bless y'all." Rain also posted a powerful Bible verse alongside her statement to drive home her plea for understanding and fairness. "Judge not, lest ye be judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged." Through her words, Rain made it clear that she believed the legal nightmare she now faced was not the result of her own wrongdoing, but a calculated attack by someone who had already harmed her deeply in the past. She painted a picture of betrayal, theft, and emotional abuse, and portrayed herself as a young woman wronged yet again by those she had trusted during her most vulnerable years. Fans' reactions were sharply divided. Some rushed to Rain's defense, arguing that she had been naive and exploited at a young age, especially following the emotional collapse she suffered after her father's death. They sympathized with her claims, believing she had been targeted by a manipulative former associate who knew how fragile she was. Others, however, viewed Rain's statement with skepticism. Some questioned whether blaming her manager was an attempt to deflect responsibility away from her own actions. They pointed out that legal charges are not filed lightly, and wondered whether Rain was trying to shift public opinion ahead of her court date. Regardless of where fans stood, one thing was certain. Rain Brown's Instagram outburst turned her quiet legal trouble into a full-blown public battle for her reputation. No longer was the focus just on the burglary charges. It had expanded into a deeper story of betrayal, manipulation, and emotional collapse. But Rain's accusations against her former manager were only part of the story. As attention intensified, troubling details began surfacing from inside her own family